In a remote village nestled between towering mountains and dense forests, there lived a humble farmer named Hiroshi and his wife Aiko. Their life was simple but full of love and peace. Their days spent working the land, their nights spent by the warmth of the hearth. They had a young child, a boy named Taro, who was just old enough to speak in broken sentences, his laughter filling their home with joy. But dark forces stir in the shadows of ancient woods, and it was on a cold, moonless night when their world began to unravel. Hiroshi returned late from the fields, his back aching, his thoughts heavy with the burdens of the harvest. As he walked toward his home, he noticed a figure standing just outside the edge of the forest, illuminated by the dim light of the lanterns. It was a woman, drenched from the rain, her long black hair slick against her shoulders, her eyes gleaming like twin orbs of amber fire. "I have lost my way," she said in a soft, almost hypnotic voice, trembling from the cold. "Please, may I seek shelter for the night?" Despite the eerie air around her, Hiroshi's good nature got the better of him. "Of course," he said, his voice warm. "Come inside. You must be freezing." The woman, whose name was May, stepped into their home with an air of grace, as though she had always belonged there. Aiko, ever the welcoming host, offered her dry clothes and a warm meal. They ate together and May spoke little, her smile both enchanting and unsettling, a glimmer of something ancient in her gaze. As the night wore on, Hiroshi noticed something strange about May, something that gnawed at the back of his mind. Her skin was too smooth, too flawless, her laughter too perfect, and her eyes. They shimmered with a depth he couldn't quite understand. But it was not until they retired to bed that the true horror began. Aiko and Hiroshi shared a room, but that night, Hiroshi could not sleep. He kept hearing strange whispers coming from the other room. It sounded like May, but there was something off about her voice. It was too high, too soft, as though she were speaking to someone else. Hiroshi lay still, straining to hear more, but before he could rise, the whisper stopped. The next morning, when the sunlight streamed through the cracks in the door, Hiroshi awoke to an odd silence. Aiko was gone. Panic surged through him. He searched the house frantically, calling her name. Nothing. The only sign of her was the faintest scent of her perfume lingering in the air. He rushed outside, but she was nowhere to be found. His heart raced as he made his way to the village, asking neighbors if they had seen her, but no one had. Then as he passed the forest's edge, he saw her, Aiko, standing motionless, staring into the woods. Her back was to him, but the way she stood, unnaturally still, sent a chill down his spine. "Aiko!" Hiroshi shouted, running toward her. She turned slowly and Hiroshi's breath caught in his throat. Her eyes were glassy, vacant, as if the spark of the woman he loved had been snuffed out. "Leave me," Aiko whispered, her voice hollow and unrecognizable. "You are not who you were meant to be." Desperation surged through Hiroshi, but before he could reach her, something else stepped from the shadows. May. Only now she was not the woman he had invited into his home. Her true form had emerged. Her skin stretched and shifted, and her eyes became two molten pools of amber, her smile widening unnaturally. "You should not have welcomed me into your home," May said, her voice now a growl, the gentle tone replaced by something cold and predatory. "But I will grant you a gift, Hiroshi." Hiroshi stepped back, horrified, as May's form began to distort, becoming a fox, a giant, terrifying creature with 9 glowing tails. Its eyes were filled with malevolence, the very essence of chaos. The kitsune's claws extended, and she placed a hand on Hiroshi's chest. "You will see the world differently now," she said, her voice like the rustling of wind in the trees. "You will walk among humans, but you will not be seen as one, and only children, the purest of souls, will recognize you for what you truly are." With that, Hiroshi screamed in agony as he felt his entire being shift. His limbs lengthened, his face twisted, and his body warped into something monstrous. But when he looked at his reflection in the water of the nearby stream, his eyes were still human. His heart still beat. He still felt like Hiroshi. But to others, he was a monster. Aiko, now empty of her former self, stepped closer to him, her face twisted in sorrowful pity. "You are no longer the man I loved," she whispered. "You are a fox now, Hiroshi, a creature of deception and terror." And so Hiroshi, now a grotesque, terrifying being with the body of a monstrous fox, was cast away from the village. He wandered the streets at night, alone, seeking out his family, hoping for some semblance of recognition. But the villagers recoiled from him in horror. When he would try to speak to them, they would scream and run, for all they saw was a terrifying beast, eyes glowing with a strange alien fire. But it was the children, Taro, his own son, and the other young ones, that would approach him with wonder in their eyes. "Daddy," Taro would ask, his voice full of innocence and untainted love. "Are you the fox?" No one else could see the man Hiroshi once was. They only saw the monstrous creature the Kitsune had turned him into. He would go to his son, but the villagers would pull him away, shrieking in terror, telling their children to run from the beast. Hiroshi's heart broke every time Taro called to him, but it was in vain. He could no longer approach his wife. He could no longer live among the people he had known and loved. He was a monster in their eyes, a creature to be feared, and yet only the children saw him for who he truly was. Years passed. Taro grew older, but his memories of his father remained a blur, lost in the haze of time. Hiroshi became a legend, a dark myth told to scare children, a monstrous fox that roams the woods, a creature of sorrow and eternal longing. But every now and then, when the moon is high and the wind is still, if you listen closely, you might hear the cry of a father who longs to be seen.